Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben here with Dylan and Brian talking about episode number 11 of Survivor 50. We are less than 2 weeks away from the finale of season 50. Well, we've been crowning a winner here, and we have a double boot episode to talk about tonight. We thought that, when we were like loosely complimenting the Blood Moon, we were like, all right, split tribals suck, but it's good to do them early when there's less kind of stakes involved, yada yada. And they're not going to do a split tribal at 10 like they have throughout the new era. And it's like, nope, we're going to do a split tribal at 9.
Yeah, they got us. They got us good with this one. Maybe as much as the players were tricked, because this was one powerful immunity win for Jonathan, perhaps the most powerful immunity win ever, but we can talk about that.
The greatest con ever placed on the people of this earth is that this season was in the hands of the fans, when in fact it has not been in the hands of the fans. Bad twist that ended up making for a very, very compelling episode, which has kind of been the story of this season. Production wants to get their dirty hands all over everything they possibly can. They want to take power away from the players. They want to make us believe, like, us, the viewer, us, the people, that the fans that voted at home are at fault for all of this. They're trying to save face with a lot of these players, blaming us. But this was a fantastic final 45 minutes of TV. One of the better post-challenge 45-hour that we've had this season. It was great. It was really great. On paper, the twist sucks, but I kind of might be a Power Broker Advantage fan now.
Yeah, I tried to warn people back when the voting was happening. You gotta vote for no twists, or you can't give production an inch. And then there was like the hemming and the hawing. I was like, oh, do we vote for the middle option? No twists. Yeah. But yeah, obviously the majority of America seemingly voted for the yes all twists button, which gave production the green light to have a twist every single round of the game. I was hopeful, we'd exhausted all of the teased celebrity endorsed interactions with the season. So I was like, wow, we might have a clean game now from the final 9 on. Now that all the celebrity stuff is done, but no. But yeah, I think it's kind of been for me like the pattern of the season, and the part of it just might be the cast is like good enough to carry. Where they've introduced like really tenuously thought through twists, and they've generally worked out probably like as good as you could imagine them to, with like a couple of small exceptions. I think the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idols have been major flop.
Yep.
But
hey,
yeah,
Genevieve wasn't wrong. She was just early.
True.
Let's can we talk about the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol real quick?
I would love to.
A proud owner of the replica of the
Yes.
Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol. Billie Eilish was on Amy Poehler's podcast this week, as I'm sure anybody who's a Survivor fan has seen the clip at this point. Billie Eilish could not give less of a shit that she was involved with Survivor this season.
Yeah.
I don't even think she used the term Boomerang Idol on that interview. She used a bunch of air quotes. She was kind of like almost necessarily kind of mocking it, like she can't believe that she's involved with this kind of stuff. Like, I got a feeling that somebody on her team, probably like contacted by Survivor, they're like, hey, Billie Eilish, you included that thing about Survivor in that one song, right? That was pretty, you're a big fan. You're one of the biggest musical stars on the planet.
Yeah.
It was something I was listening to the podcast, something like, I want to see you suffer like the people on Survivor. I think that was like, that might be the exact lyric. Biggest Survivor fan out there, Billie Eilish. She has not watched an episode, not only an episode, she has not watched a minute of this season of Survivor, maybe any season of Survivor ever. So shout out Billie Eilish. Come on the pod.
I have no issues with Billy as a performer or as a person. I think she's like pretty neat, but definitely like her involvement in the season of the 4 celebrities, definitely the most confusing. Because I actually do genuinely think that the other 3 celebrities that were involved, at the very least, watched the show. Like I feel confident about that. Like the level of fandom obviously can be argued, but I do think at least the other 3 celebrities that were involved all do watch Survivor. So
At least
if that's a bar.
Mr. Beast came out to the island. We've talked about how great we liked the Mr. Beast spot last week. Zach Brown, say whatever you want. I thought that episode was fine. People hated it. You can get into the whole thing about the edit and women having less time on the screen than Zach Brown. Fair enough. He probably paid to get on there, but at least he was out on the island spearfishing with the group. Coach cried. Colby cried. It was a real great experience for all of them. Jimmy Fallon, whatever. Don't care. Don't care about Jimmy Fallon. He got Christian on his show. Happy for Christian in that situation. Billie Eilish has never like tweeted about Survivor. Like you said, I've never heard her bring up Survivor ever, and I think that interview kind of confirmed for us that this was a move to bring in Billie Eilish fans for whatever reason to watch Survivor, as if just hearing that there's a Billie Eilish idol, they're all of a sudden going to want to learn the nuances and who these people are that have played for 50 seasons before this season that they're watching and learn the game, all because there's a Billie Eilish boomerang idol that half the people that if you tried to explain to them what the Billie Eilish boomerang idol was, they wouldn't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, yeah, the Billie Eilish boomerang idol is a big flop, Ben. I think you're correct. Tyson's podcast, shout out, the only other best podcast that covers Survivor on the airwaves. Tyson's podcast, they talked about that this week. And they made a great point that I think is very valid, that Survivor should be on paper so above doing stuff like this at this point. Like you are the main staple of reality TV in the United States. You're kind of like the go-to, and we're really the father, the parent to all these other offsprings of reality TV that came after you. And I think that you reduce yourself to having to whore yourself out to do things like Jimmy Fallon and Billie Eilish, and have Zach Brown pay however much money to promote his alcohol to come on. At least Mr. Beast seemingly probably put in his own money to go towards the game itself and the players. It's just to say that it's a season that celebrates Survivor and its players and its fans, and not have players like Boston Rob or like Parvati or Sandra or Tony, or not have like any idols or anything named after them, or like have Boston Rob on the island spearfishing with the gang, like talking shop. I know that like they wouldn't be as blown away to be hanging out with Boston Rob. Some of them are friends with Boston Rob, but still, like that for us as a viewer would be so much more special than having the Billie Eilish boomerang idol be played, ruin a player like Genevieve's game. She apparently doesn't even want to play Survivor ever again because she got absolutely screwed this season for stuff like this. It's a slap in the face, but I do want to come back here at the end. I think that this was a very, very good episode, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better myself. Feels weird to have a celebrity involved and she doesn't care at all to even be involved with it. I don't know if like maybe didn't Thomas from 48 work in the music industry? Maybe he's Billie Eilish's friend. He hooked this up. I don't know, but yeah, complete waste. The only thing it really gave us was Ozzy not playing his idol, which, you know, who knows? He probably wouldn't have found an idol on his own. So we wouldn't have had this, you know, through line between Survivor Micronesia and now this, where he went home with an idol 2 times, which is, you know, very devastating. I can't imagine Ozzy is doing that great this week, having to relive all of this.
Yeah, I think one interesting, I guess, piece of the Billie Eilish boomerang idol from a television perspective is it simultaneously incentivizes people to get idols who are like the least likely to play them correctly, and also makes it so you can't do anything super interesting with them. So like stuff that happened with like Aubrey burning her idol, like because people got mad at her, that one tribal council like 4 rounds ago, and now this with Ozzy, and then Rizzo probably is just never going to need this idol, and it's going to just kind of coast into the final 5 pretty easily. Like that's kind of what you should expect out of this twist, because you're limiting the usefulness of the idol and you're incentivizing it to be given to people who are not going to play it correctly. So I don't know what they really expected, I guess is what I'm going to say. I guess their ceiling for the twist was it boomeranging, but like that just in retrospect feels so unlikely, because people are very rarely get like it requires both the person with the idol and the person who found it and sent it to them to make it deep enough into the game where that person can then be blindsided with the idol. Because it's very rare that people are blindsided with an idol in the pre-merge. Usually it kind of happens around this spot, around like the final 9. Like in that kind of like 10 to 7 range is where people are generally blindsided with an idol. So it's really heavily banking on getting both of those people into that position, and then the blindside happening, and then the boomerang happening. And then it's like all of that like mechanism for what? For like the person who found the idol to just have it. Like it's just, I don't know. It's so convoluted for no reason.
I didn't really put 2 and 2 together now that one of the idols that that Genevieve found was the idol that Ozzy had, and it wasn't even played. I'm even more upset now for Genevieve. It's just I don't know. We have a whole discussion to get into about Ozzy and the storytelling there. We touched on it before, Ben. Emily, I guess I don't know how you guys want to kind of dive in this episode, because I feel like the whole Ozzy thing is it's its own kind of section that needs to be discussed, and kind of the history of Ozzy and what has led us here, and just how absolutely insane that is how that ended for Ozzy. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Ben. You lead this charge,
No.
so you can pick however you want to go. But I'm just I am shocked. I've been sitting with it for the past 2 days. But it is very surreal that is how Ozzy was taken out of this game. The game has really been completely blown wide open. We sat here last week like, I think it's pretty obvious Suri, Rizzo, or Ozzy, like those 2 are most likely going to be sitting there at the end, and then they might just pretty much kind of walk there. I feel very, very differently now that we sit here. I think that this game is a incredibly fluid situation of what's going on now. We could be sitting here next week and Suri goes home and we're like, yeah, that makes sense. Where, last week we said Suri not being the winner narratively, Suri Ozzy not being the winners would not make a whole lot of sense narratively, which I guess that point doesn't change that much. But the tide has definitely completely just shifted these past 2 weeks with the game. So maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Maybe that's what they wanted. I don't know. That's like a separate conversation, I guess, about interference with production and people not being able to play their game long term because of this stuff like this. But we are in this game now, and it is like, I feel more so than at any other point in the season since the beginning that it like feels like anybody's game outside of Joe.
I mean, our analysis was correct, I would say, right? Like, in order for Ozzy to go out here, like, we needed, like, specifically this type of twist. We needed Ozzy to be blindsided when he was, like, basically explicitly told to play his idol by Suri, and just, like, he has a premonition dream about being blindsided with his idol. He's been the target for the last, like, 2 to 3 rounds, right? Like, he has to not play his idol. And we've been talking about the Suri, Rizzo, Ozzy trio. That trio has to break up in order for this to happen, right? Like Rizzo, like the reason that trio was so powerful was because people didn't know that Rizzo was with them. Like, they eventually had now pieced together that Ozzy and Suri were a duo, but they never pieced together that Rizzo was meant to be their trio. And so if Rizzo doesn't allow Ozzy to get voted out here, then he wouldn't have gotten voted out. So like, it took like a confluence of so many things happening all at once for Ozzy to be even voted out in this position. And if he wasn't, then they probably just ride out to the end and win. Like there's like it was like so many specific things had to happen. And Suri is still playing really well, like on her side of the beach, and even through Jonathan in this whole the way this whole twist was set up, she played incredibly well. And it's still like playing one of the best games that I've seen in years. So like it's still really hard to like say, oh, you know, we got it wrong. It's like not really. We got it right, and then like a very specific set of circumstances happened.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Brian.
It sucks. It sucks that they were doing the split tribal, but they weren't on the they were on the same beach, but you know what I mean. They were separated with only Jonathan as the go-between. It did take like this is just very new era Survivor. Just this weird confluence of variables coming together and everything going wrong for Ozzy and Suri for this to happen. I think that now we can kind of look at it where like Suri's probably not going to win now, unfortunately. Most like because you know we kind of thought like her path to the end was Ozzy winning final immunity and bringing Suri to the end. He said that he would have taken her to the end in the episode, so it seems like that probably would have happened. But now it's like, okay, I guess Suri's edit is the last or the big person, the person running the game who's going to take her out and kind of inherit the, you know, clout from that move. And, you know, I think it's probably going to be Jonathan or Aubrey at this point, just because Jonathan's been playing a pretty, you know, not a great game, but a solid game. He's made some good moves. And he also has been given credit every time he's been on the right side of the vote for being the driving force behind the vote. And I think that, you know, is promising for him as a potential winner. Whereas Aubrey this whole season has been like I'm growing and learning from my past and trying to be like the winner of my original season. Even though, like Ben said last week, she didn't really describe why Michelle won, but they're at least trying to set up the through line. Other than that, like I think Devins is pretty dead in the water. His whole alliance is gone. I think this move probably doesn't do much for Rizzo's win equity. Not that he had a lot of win equity, but you know, we'll see what happens going forward.
I actually think Rizzo 100% made the right move, and I don't think it helped his game at all. I think it eliminated the inevitable that he was going to have to take out Ozzy and Suri. So it's step one for him. My concern for Rizzo, and we have been a big Rizzo defending podcast. This has been a very tough season for blowback against Rizzo. Honestly, I think people absolutely despise the Tres Leches alliance. They call Soph a grifter and say that she just wants the clout on social media and to be an influencer. And really kind of
I wouldn't say she's a grifter. I think that has a negative.
I might have just
definitely tried to
grifter is probably the thing I've heard the most. Yeah.
I might have just came up with grifter as I was coming up with this story. That's not my thing because I love Soph. I'm a big Soph guy. I'm very much excited to see her play again, and I think she deserves to play again. People downplaying her game on 49. Obviously, Savannah has been very up and down. We contest that she's one of the better winners of the new era, which that's if you don't agree with that, you're a silly goose. But obviously, people weren't super high on Savannah coming into this season. Went out very early, kind of validated people saying of why should she have been on the season. She's going to have a huge target on her back. And then also we have Rizzo, where people don't hate Rizzo for the reasons of, you know, he's like that annoying Gen Z guy. You know, he talks in like brain rot language. You know, he plays up to kind of get that airwaves. And in Ozzy's exit interview, he talks about that. of you. Specifically, it sounds like people on the island, or at least Ozzy, have not gotten over this. Have not gotten over Rizzo, or not huge fans of him. Whatever that means for the end game, I don't know. But they acknowledge that there are players like Rizzo who purposely kind of play up things to get more airtime, and that pisses them off. Which I can see if you're a player like Ozzy, who's been around for a very long time. Rizzo has been playing much quieter these past couple weeks, but he still has played I think, very good game on this season, and I think a combined very good game 2 seasons in a row. And we talked about he has lost a significant amount of weight, came in probably pretty weak after immediately playing 49, already a pretty small, stocky kid, or not stocky, but, lengthy beanstalk kid where he's like very lean. I think that he deserves much more credit than he gets among the masses. Whether you like him or not, he is a good player of Survivor. And he has been doing what he has needed to get to this point. I think he's much, much better strategically than Ozzy, which we saw in this episode, obviously. But yeah, this move was the necessary move he had to make, but the way it unfolded did not help his game at all, which kind of sucks. And I think that really kind of ruins a lot for him when we get to the end.
Yeah, my biggest argument against this being the right move is like, it is the move he had to do if he wants to win, but he's not the driving force behind it, so he's not going to get any of the credit that he needs in order to become the winner, which
is kind of crazy though, because this whole thing comes undone if he just tells Ozzy. So it's like, he's not the driving force, he wasn't the person to bring it up, but he was the final step that needed to fall for it to work. And had he stayed committed to his alliance, he would have told Ozzy. Ozzy would have played the idol, and his game probably would have been over at that point. I don't think that would have people been gunning for Ozzy next week because he had no idol? Sure, but guess who's the only person that has an idol left after that? Rizzo, which he's still the only person left that has an idol after this anyway. But still, I think that this was overall the right move that just ends up kind of screwing him in a different way than it would have been if he let Ozzy play the idol.
Yeah. I think that the issue is if he tips off Ozzy, he's basically putting his game into Ozzy's hands, because if he then tries to keep Ozzy here and then flip the next time, Ozzy basically has just dirt on him, and Ozzy this episode is openly spilling information to Aubrey for zero good reason. So if Rizzo saves him but then tries to flip the next round, Ozzy has demonstrated that he'd be 1000% willing to try to sell Rizzo out to protect himself and Suri. So it's I think that this was right. I think that in the moment I didn't love the move, but after kind of thinking over it for a little bit, I think if he doesn't make this move, he can't win the game. I don't think there's a path for him to win the game. And with making this move, I think he can win the game, but I think that the path is very narrow still. And if he does end up getting to the end with anyone except for Suri and gets completely crushed in the jury vote, at that point, I think he was just drawing dead in the whole season, and nothing he did would have mattered. That just might be the case, right? There's a non-zero chance that he could have played a Kim Spradlin-esque game, the game that Suri's playing right now. He could have basically done what Suri's doing right now, still gotten to the end, ran every single vote, and people would just not vote for him because he's the kid from 49. He's 25. He's got some quirks that make him annoying. People don't want the new kid to win season 50. People don't want New Era to be bolstered that much, especially a lot of the old era players. He's been sick and not working around camp and very perceived as lazy. There's so many things that I think are just working against him just intrinsically based off of him coming onto the season as the unknown quantity, that I think, if he doesn't win the jury vote in certain scenarios, to me indicate that there was just no winning path for him, and he's probably just played as well as he hypothetically could, which would be kind of disappointing. But like I think there's also like a level of impressiveness to that, where you just kind of like you just max out your like extremely meager win equity, even when you have all these cards stacked against you, and just do everything you could do. So.
This was a lose-lose situation for Rizzo too, because if he warns Ozzy, then people would be freaking out. And I say lose-lose in terms of like with the viewers that if he warned Ozzy, people would be saying he wasn't a serious contender because he didn't want to take out somebody who was going to be a threat to him, even if he was an ally. That's like that's pretty much that's how it would go if he had warned Ozzy. So I think in terms of Rizzo and his views with the fans. I think that this was like a real lose-lose situation for him. Even if I think it was the better of two evils for his game. And I think you bring up a great point too. I don't think that the players on the island want a new era player winning, and I don't think the fans at large want a new era player winning. And I think that like has created a lot more blowback in his direction than he probably deserves. And he's not a perfect player. He's not playing a perfect game. Like, make no mistake about that. We're a big pro Rizzo podcast, but I don't think any of us think that he's playing some perfect, amazing game and is like the clear-cut person that deserves to win this season, because that's not the case either. But not having a clear-cut perfect game and deserving to win the season does not mean that he's a bad player at Survivor and playing bad. I think that he's playing the game that Rizzo wants to play, and he does it very, very well. So I agree. With Daryl, I think Joe is probably the only person left at this point that Rizzo has a chance at beating. But even then, like I have a hard time imagining Rizzo getting a vote when we get the final tribal. Depending, no matter who he's with, I don't see it. I don't think Joe can beat Rizzo. Joe's
not beating. No. Joe's getting 0 jury votes in the end. The issue is Rizzo needs a second person there besides Joe. And like right now, it seems like he's leaning towards it being Jonathan, based off of how this episode played out. Like that seems to have been like the final 3 that this episode was like loosely kind of pitching. That seems like the final 3 that all of Joe, Jonathan, and Rizzo are probably leaning towards, at least in the moment now. Obviously, things can change in the next 2 episodes, but that feels like the best case scenario for all 3 of them. So I think it makes sense. Tiffany is really seemingly well liked. Cerise, Devins has played this big flashy game, and like even though there are people who seem to have been turned off by him as a player, like you can't downplay him. Like even Devin's Edge of Extinction game, I would say was on paper extremely bad, but because he was so like flashy and loud, he was likely to win if he made it to that final tribal council. And I think similarly here in most cases. And then I think Aubrey, if we're talking about new era versus old era, one of the big selling points for a potential Jonathan, Joe, Rizzo final 3 amongst themselves is they are all technically new era players. Obviously, Jonathan and Joe especially, has very a new old era mentality, but they are all players from the new era. And so if there's this kind of poison cloud over some of the old era players on the jury of we don't want a new era player representing this season, if all 3 of them are new era players, you got to pick one, and then at that point you might narrow it down to, okay, well, who played the best game.
Yeah, I think that's probably Jonathan's path to the W, is the Rizzo and Joe. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off, but I do think that it is one of the, bigger possibilities now. And I think that even though people don't like Jonathan online, I think that's very clear, at least the super fans don't. I do have to give him some credit for playing a pretty decent game down the stretch. And if he, can pull this off, then all credit to him. He deserves the win,
I've been on Jonathan since the merge. And even Ben, who's been a little down on Jonathan, has also been giving him his flowers, though, with some of the things he has done right. I think Jonathan has propped up some of the stuff he's done a little bit more than what has actually been the case. But
Yeah.
It also all comes back to how you can pitch it at Final Tribal. And I think that you see Jonathan working well with Tiffany. I think you see he's really got his way into being with Sari. I don't think they're like a locked in alliance, but I think that he has Sari now to have somebody that can feed some information to him. Obviously, we've seen a lot of him and Aubrey working together. We've seen he's able to talk to Joe, even though Joe is, Joe is Joe. I said last week, I think Joe is not playing well at all, kind of like taking a step back from his season originally. But still, I think Joe is a fantastic character. Like just the having somebody in Survivor who is just like he morally is unable to play the game is very hilarious to watch. And like you said, calling what Devins did disgusting is so funny. It's so funny to hear him say that and hear play out about a guy that put his game on the line, even if he was, potentially going home that night, put his game on the line to get $2 million into the winner, and also just did something that was fun. It's very, very funny to have Joe. I want more characters like Joe, even if I don't think they're very good at Survivor. So that's funny. Yeah, I think Jonathan, a very clear win is probably Rizzo and Joe. I think that if you bring Joe and somebody else, maybe like Tiffany, and even then maybe potentially Devins, I think that we could have a very, very close split vote towards the end of how many people are going to be on the jury. If we have 3, it's going to be
it's 11.
So there'll be 11 people on the jury. So maybe we get close to like a 6-5, like something like that. And I think that could be really compelling. And I think that Jonathan, depending on how the wind's blowing with the jury that day, could pull that out. But I think when you start talking about Sari, obviously we all like Sari, anybody's there with Sari, they're going to lose. That's like that's going to happen. That's the thing. Aubrey, it feels like she would get a lot more votes, and I don't think it would be as close with Jonathan. But then I think everything after that could be very close. But yeah, Rizzo and Joe would probably be the 2 that would guarantee him the best chance at winning. And I wonder if somebody like Rizzo thinks the same way. Like, I wonder how Jonathan is actually perceived. Not like fake fan, like Jonathan's the devil. Like, I wonder how he's actually perceived on that island. Like, because clearly he doesn't like Devins, but Devins is still open to working with him. But I think him saying that at Devins at Tribal today, basically confirming like, we can't work together. I think that kind of eliminates Devins wanting to vote for Jonathan. So that's, take Devins out of the equation. Maybe that spills over to Emily, probably does. And Christian, maybe potentially, if Christian didn't like his antics. So maybe he's done some very bad jury management, which jury management is a topic that we will be discussing tonight. I don't know. I love a season where we have a pure dominant winner, which if we can get that with Sari, and Sari would have to really pretty much absolutely dominate the next however many days are left on the island in order for her to win, because the people that are left in this game are very aware that Sari needs to go now. Like, that cat's out the bag. She's probably, I'm still picking her as my number 1 favorite to win this season, but I'm also picking her as my number 1 most likely person to go home next week. So it's like, it's that type of situation. But I think outside of Sari, whoever's going to win this season has not played a perfect game. It's been very, very messy. Whether that's the edit's fault, whether that's their fault, probably their fault. It is compelling to have like that group of, they played kind of well enough, but I'm not quite sure who of this bunch has played better. I think that would be really interesting, but I'm still very much rooting for a Sari to really absolutely kick ass here at the end and get her way. And like, imagine a way where Sari wins, somehow either winning final immunity or somehow winning fire. Like, that would be absolutely insane, and kind of just continue to build the legacy of who most people regard as one of the best players of all time.
Yeah, I mean the path for Sari in my mind is you have this trio, right? That we laid out, the Rizzo, Joe, Jonathan trio, and they target Devins and or Aubrey first. Probably Devon's is who I would say is my person most likely to go at Final 7. And then they target Aubrey and Tiffany at 6 and 5 in some order because they feel confident that they can beat Suri in a Final 4 situation. And then, Suri and Rizzo end up in Fire together, and Suri wins Fire, right? That's like basically her only path to win the game, I think, at this point. Is just like this trio is able to kind of lock in and control the game, and they drag her into Final 4 because they feel most confident of the other 4 people that they can beat her. And then she pulls out a clutch Fire-making win somehow. Like that's it. I think that's the only path. I can't. I've gone through the Rolodex of options in my brain. I legitimately think it's the only path she can win. But I don't know if either of you can come up with a different one.
They brought up. Go ahead, Brian.
It would be great narratively if she lost her first season by losing Fire and won her last season by winning Fire. Now you're giving me a lot of hopium here, Ben, because I was like, Suri's dead, it's over. But now I'm like, but maybe there's a chance.
Well, I mean, it's a very narrow path. It's like an extremely.
You're giving me something to believe in, Ben.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure. I don't think this is happening. Let me say, right. I think that we're barreling towards a very wet fart end of the season, which is going to be disappointing. So I've actually really enjoyed season 50 all the way through, and it's going to be. I think that a lot of the discussion after the season ends is going to be about how it was like a really good season that had a really like kind of lackluster ending.
Yeah, and I blame the twists. Like, too many twists. We should have just gotten rid of people early. I know that Survivor is probably like, oh, we don't want people to be mad that their favorites are going out so early, but I think that would have been better to these late game twists that really are fucking up, good gameplay.
It's really interesting to me that to hear you say though that you think it'll be a wet fart ending, because I actually think. Well, I know I said it, but I think that we have gotten kind of the universe, the butterfly effect to give us what I think is probably the more interesting of the endings to the season. And I think, because like I said, I think if we see Suri be able to dog her way out and get to the end here, that's very compelling. I think when Suri goes, there is like a genuine, very, very real power struggle. I don't know who outside of Joe is going to be able to claim that. I think the only wet fart ending for me at this point, because I think that even Tiffany winning now, we need some explaining to what that was pre-merge of why she was featured so little of what was going on there. We would need to understand what the hell happened there. But I think Tiffany has absolutely turned on the Jets since Dee's been eliminated. We talked about Tiffany being basically non-existent in this game. And then out of nowhere, I mean, like, she got close with Suri. She started absolutely dominating challenges. She obviously didn't win this challenge, but she was there in the end. And like, she has done everything she has needed to do to get to this point. And it's insane. Like, it validates now of what we thought originally coming into this season of like, oh yeah, Tiffany being here makes sense. And we were given a very valid reason by the production and by edit early on in this season to wonder, okay, well, I take that back. Why is Tiffany here? She's doing absolutely nothing. She seems completely out of place. And then out of nowhere, she has gotten in good with Suri. She, like I said, she's dominating challenges. She's working with people like Jonathan, who before this, I didn't think that she would work with Jonathan because of everything that happened with D. I think that she's like really grown within the past, however many days it's been since D was voted out. I think she's like really grown as a player. And I don't agree there's no chance Tiffany wins. I think that the narrative we've gotten, or the edit we've gotten for her post merge, has started to really shape. Is it as strong as like the all of a sudden the new edit that Aubrey's getting? No, but I think I would not rule Tiffany as a 0% chance winner. I really wouldn't. And we've seen it happen before with returnee player seasons of a player like Tiffany. Given she probably would have been featured much more early on than Tiffany actually was in this season, but just kind of like be this really intriguing winner that was kind of one of the last people standing. But I think when you go back and look at her game, you're like, oh yeah, Tiff played decently well, much better than we thought in the moment.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten a returning winner like that, but there certainly have been winners over the course of Survivor like that for sure.
Well, I think that's kind of my issue, right? Is like other than Suri and maybe Jonathan, like I don't think that any of these people have had what you would consider like a reasonable winners edit for like a returning player season.
Yeah.
Like I know everyone is very high on Aubrey right now for the last like 1.5 episodes, but like if Aubrey wins, she has by far the worst winner edit of a returning player season in the French. It's not even close by far. Like I've gone through the winners this morning, and there's like maybe 5 that would have a worse winner edit than Aubrey, in my opinion. Like, and I do think that Aubrey at this point is probably one of the more likely winners. And if that's the case, like, what is the show doing? Like, why? It just feels so strange if she is the winner to spend the first like 8 to 9 episodes out of 13 just like dogging on her constantly and making her out to be unlikable, incompetent, like just underwriting her as a player, only for them to be like, oh, but look, she has a really strong last 3 episodes. It doesn't sell for me. I don't know.
Well, I think we also got like, I think other players are getting incredibly favorable edits like Ozzy to make him look like he's playing a much better strategic and social game than he actually is. Because we saw Ozzy the dummy obviously come out in full force in this episode. And I have a hard time believing that out of nowhere, for the first time the entire season, this is where Ozzy has all of a sudden slipped up and started just completely tanking his game. Like he's away for Suri for 10 minutes and all of a sudden this is what happened. And we should have known. We should have known when Suri had to go to exile that naturally, you know, I don't think it was like as insane of a difference of him saying that he wanted to vote out Devins and Aubrey rather than Coach and Chrissy. Like that's not that as insane of a change, but obviously as he, you know, he misreads what Suri wanted to do. So did Rizzo. And he said, oh, we definitely have to get Devins and Aubrey, right? And Suri obviously said, no, we need to get Coach and Christian now while we can. And he was like, oh, of course, obviously. Like very clearly Suri has been like carrying Ozzy social and strategic game on his back. I don't doubt that the players on that island really adored and liked Ozzy. Like he seems probably a very likable guy, but also this is the Ozzy we've known for the past for the entire time that he's played this game. And that's why it's so insane that he goes out this way. But at the same time, as it's unfolding, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's Ozzy.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, for all of his talk of wanting to be the new version of Ozzy, you just can't, you know, sometimes you just are who you are, you know.
That's been a big thing this season too, is like people like claiming that they're changing their game or improving their game or fixing their mistakes, but like when like the rubber hits the road, like you are who you are, and it's like very difficult to like change who you are within Survivor, because so much of playing Survivor is just like being yourself, and unless you have like a major personality shift or like a major change of who you are like in real life as a person, it's going to be extremely difficult. Like, yeah, you can like learn some of the strategy stuff, right? Like I think Ozzy could do with learning some of the strategy stuff, but it's just really like we saw Coach obviously is like one of the big examples. Joe even comes into the season like, oh, you know, trying to process why he like got completely destroyed in the final tribal of 48, and like coming and being like, oh, this is gonna be 50. I have to play harder. I have to play Survivor like a game. You know, I can't take everything so personally. I can't, you know, be the honor and integrity guy. And then 5 seconds into the season, it's back to the old Joe, and then it's that the entire time. So it's not straightforward to just be like it's an easier said than done situation to be like, oh, I'm going to change my game. I'm going to be different this time. I'm going to fix my flaws and mistakes. It's pretty much nobody heads up this season.
Ozzy obviously played decently well this season. I think everything that happened in this episode kind of really completely undid all the goodwill he earned up until that point for the season. I feel very confident that he just got a very favorable edit, and he was the same Ozzy the entire season. Because doing jury management at this stage with a player like Aubrey, telling her, Suri is one of the best players of all time, and you're going to bring her. One, if Ozzy was seriously considering saying he was going to bring Suri, dummy. Two, how absolutely insulting is that to Aubrey? That you're in a season 50 returning player season, and you are pulling her aside when there are still, 10 people left, whatever many people are left at this point. Yeah, 9 people left. Yeah. And you're saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to take Suri to the end because I really want her to be there, which also crazy because you're saying like you're going to win. Of like, I want to have Suri there with me when I win, by the way. So like, I need you to respect that. Him in admitting that that's jury management to Aubrey of all people is one of the most insulting and craziest things I think he could have done. It is wild. So I all the goodwill I had toward Ozzy and his game up to this point, it's gone. I think that I will not say that he played this amazing game. I think he did a great job falling in line with Suri, and Suri carried his ass to this point. With that said, I have found myself liking Ozzy a lot from this season, where before I didn't necessarily like Ozzy a lot. So just because he didn't end up changing his game and not really ultimately being able to win and kind of going out the way he did, literally having a nightmare, a dream with going out with an idol in his pocket and still going out with an idol in his pocket is so on brand for Ozzy. And we said it before, Survivor absolutely does not owe any of these players anything. And it could still it could still happen to Suri where she does not get her fairy tale ending. Ozzy did not get his fairy tale ending, but narratively and storytelling wise, it is so perfect. And it's almost like Shakespearean in a way. It's just like there was no happy ending for Ozzy. He's going out doing the same dumb shit he always did. But man, Ozzy, Jungle Boy, Jungle Man he's so cool. And that's fine. Like that's Survivor lore forever. Take it to Ghost Island 2, Ozzy's Billie Eilish Boomerang. You can't play it idol, whatever you want to call it. It is like it's so perfect for the overall story for Survivor. I feel bad for Ozzy. I felt bad for Ozzy. It sucks, but like, yeah, that's who Ozzy is, and that's probably who he always was, and that's why people were Ozzy fans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This just doesn't make any sense. I think not playing his idol is like whatever, right? You can get blindsided. It happens to like good players all the time. Obviously, happened to Ozzy before. But yeah, the jury management segment with Aubrey was completely indefensible. Completely indefensible. Like, it not necessary, right? Like, I think this might be one of those things that happens to returning players who have previously lost jury votes, especially close jury votes, which, like, Ozzy in his first season loses to Yule 5-4, right? Like, it's incredibly close. Like, it literally was like he was like a ball hair away from winning that season, and like maybe in his mind, in every single returning player season, he's like, if only I had just done jury management with one of the people who didn't vote for me, I win that season. But like, you don't need to do jury management if you're not in the end with people who have a chance of beating you. And if he goes to the end with any selection of people on this left in this game other than Suri, like, he's just winning probably pretty close to unanimously. So like, it's just completely unnecessary to do what he did here. Like, because there was no scenario where he would have been involved in a close jury vote. Like, like you could say maybe if he was there with Suri would have been close. I think it probably wouldn't have been. I think that it's probably would have been a relative blowout for Suri. It probably been like 7-4 at best. So like he basically had two options. He was either go to the end with Suri and lose no matter how much jury management he tries to do, or go to the end with anybody else and win, and no matter how bad or inconsistent his jury management is. So like there was just no rationale for doing this at all.
Do it to Joe. Joe would make a little bit more sense. Have that conversation with Joe, and I think Joe really would have ate that up. I think Joe, it's a joke. I think Joe is so desperate to vote himself out in this game at this point that, like, I think you had that conversation with Joe, and I think it goes over swimmingly. And I think us at home are like, hey, that was smart. Really lock down that Joe vote in case you get there with Suri at the end. Do it to Aubrey when you have a vote coming up because you think you're going to unanimously vote out Aubrey. In a game of this season where you know that it's not so simple as doing that, where you don't have Suri to have your back, is just bananas. And I guess I don't know where in the day that ended up falling, whether it was like, you know, when they showed it to us, it was just like kind of towards like the middle beginning of when they were on there, or if that was towards the end where a lot of the movement towards Ozzy had already happened. Just crazy.
It's also the premise of doing jury management with somebody by spilling all of your game secrets to them and making the conversation with them about yourself is not how you would do jury management anyways. Like if you want to do this kind of really flagrant and obvious jury management, you want to make the conversation about that person, right? You want to highlight that person's, be like, oh, you're such a threat. Like, I have a lot of respect for you. You are one of the best to ever do this. I really just can't sit with you. Like stuff like that. Like that is how you would do. Like it's still transparent jury management, but like at least you're like pushing the theoretical right buttons. Nothing about what he said outside of it being strategically horrible makes sense as something that you would say to somebody to make them respect you as a player and want to vote for you in the jury. Which
also, by the way, he completely screwed up Suri's game. That's like the part we haven't really discussed yet, is that he also completely, absolutely screwed Suri.
We implied it a little bit, but yeah.
She's thank God she played. Obviously, she needed to play the extra vote to not go home. But also, thank God she played it, or else Suri would be the most dead in the water anybody has been the entire season this upcoming week.
I mean, never worried that the woman who invented the 3-2-1 plan is going to like screw up an extremely obvious strategic play.
True. Very true.
Yeah. The opening that Ozzy had was so bad when they go off, and like when he's like, I want to win this game so bad. I was like, oh, is he going to like pitch something to Aubrey for a plan? But no, it's like, I want to win this really bad, Aubrey. So if you could just vote for me,
you understand.
So sick. Yeah.
Aubrey, who's also never won. You understand, right?
Yeah.
Right. Aubrey, who's also been absolutely has been very much embarrassed when she's played and gotten to the end. You understand, Aubrey, right? You're cool with that.
It was crazy. You thought that was going to work. I don't know.
Yeah.
It did give us a fantastic shot though at the very end when he turned to them. He said, I really trusted you guys. And the way the camera looked at his face and it panned, and then it was Jeff in focus with the flame of the torch right there. Really, really good shit. That's some Spielberg, Christopher Nolan level like shot. That was really sick.
No, agreed. That was great. He did take a little long, which I guess like it's Ozzy. He's a legend. You can let him stay there for a while, but at a certain point I was like, what are we doing here, Ozzy? Like it's over. Go home.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna Ozzy's the drama queen, right? Like he's always gonna do that.
Yeah. It was very nice that they did a like updated version of the original voting off music. I thought that was a nice touch for Ozzy. Should we talk about Emily?
Yeah.
I feel like we spent 54 minutes talking about Ozzy.
I mean, to be fair, the episode also very much made Emily and her boot a kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Emily and Rick, played hard and almost pulled it off. Like, it was good. They're both really good players, and without that extra vote, they pulled it off,
Do we think they oversold it, or do we think that Suri was probably they were always going to split it, and we're going to find out next week that was their plan the entire time?
Oh, that was definitely their plan the entire time. Yeah, there's
Okay.
no reason not to. Like,
Yeah.
there's just like the extra vote advantage is so useless. Like 95% of the time, this is like the one time where it's actually useful. And the reason it's useful or useless most of the time is because like one extra vote in like big numbers generally doesn't like change the calculus too much. Like usually it's going to take somewhere around like 5 or 6 people at a tribal council for it to really matter. And by that point in the game, it's null and void. Like usually I think it expires by the final 6. So these split tribals, and we've seen this in the past, I think, with like, like in 42, for instance, like there's been a couple of instances in the new era where they've done a split tribal and an extra vote gets played, and it's like at least hypothetically mattered. But like this is like the one time where it makes sense, and you have like the survivor math of 3 people plus an extra vote is greater than 2 people plus an idol, because it lets you split the votes like this. So yeah, there's like almost no circumstance where if Suri keeps this extra vote, it's going to be any more useful than it is here.
I don't want to imagine a world though where Suri goes out, doesn't play her extra vote. Ozzy goes out, does not play his idol. I think we're sitting here pretty much discussing how Survivor kind of needs to wrap it up, and like we need to move on to a different show. I think that was the Armageddon scenario that I think really probably would have completely destroyed this season. So there was never really probably a doubt that Suri was I a little scared for Suri? Yes. But I think now, especially when we sit back and Monday morning quarterback it, even like when I just asked you, Ben, and you too, Brian, do you think that was the plan all along? In the moment, obviously, and that's the point of the show and building up dramatic moments. In the moment, I was obviously still a little concerned for Suri because she very easily could have looked past that point, even if it wasn't the smartest move, and say, hey, I might need this extra vote next week too. Can I really trust Jonathan and Tiffany, and then trust Emily's word that she really wants to stay here? So I'm very happy that we didn't get that, because that was probably a season destroying event to happen. Also, I feel very confident we'll probably never see Suri play again. And then on the flip side, we'll most likely probably not see Ozzy play Survivor again. So like to have that be the way that they both go out, you talk about like Survivor doesn't own anything, and like that being, that just being their endings and fitting their storyline. I think for Suri, that would have been like really, really tragic, and kind of just been like this game and these twists. They wanted to screw Suri over for the jump. So very happy that was not the case. But we like we said last week, there was a timeline where Suri gets advantage getting out again. And we kind of almost got like a junior version of that. So I'm glad that did not happen.
Yeah. I think my worry was, well, first of all, when they announced the twist, I did the math in my head and I was like, we did a flashback to advantage get-in, and like this is hypothetically possible. And I did the math afterwards, and it's a 1 in 35 chance for it to have happened, which is not particularly low. Like that's like 3 or 4%. Like that's not like an unreasonable scenario to have happened that they were kind of fucking around with this way this twist was designed. I was like, but then they the groups shook out, and I was like, okay, well, is Jonathan going to side with Suri? And then it became pretty clear that Jonathan was going to side with Suri and Tiff. And then I was like, okay, we're good. She'll play the extra vote. We're solid here. They're just like, vamping for drama with the Emily plan, which was fun. It was like a cool plan in theory. But yeah, it seemed pretty obvious to me that it was just not going to work, and that Emily was just going to go. And the intrigue for me for the most of the episode was like, does Ozzy get blindsided, or does he play his idol?
Yeah. There's a moment in this episode where Jeff's like, wow, I never really thought about how we created 2 Final Fives. And it's like, yeah, Jeff, we know you guys don't think through these at all. Like, that's what on the surface, you are creating 2 Final Fives because you want 2 Final Five votes. I guess they didn't think about it that way, which is insane. But like, Ben, we've run games before. We've had to do the math and take hidden immunity idols out of their hiding places so that we don't end up in a situation like Advantage Geddon. Like, it just feels like there's no foresight at all with the Survivor production team, which is very disappointing.
Yeah. They need a game designer that actually knows how to design games that isn't just kind of like throwing shit against the wall.
As somebody who is actively applying to Survivor, I do want to just say I do think you guys are doing a great job. I think that you're trying to just keep things exciting. So Jeff, I think you're doing a great job also. I think you looked awesome in that challenge last week into production. I just want to say the editing has been fantastic. Twists. I think we do need to shake things up, much like marriages and shaking things up in the bedroom. Sometimes with these games, you got to really mix things up. So,
Natalie Bolton.
Shout out to production, to Jeff. Come on the pod. We would love to have you guys talk. Got a video coming in if you guys want to take a look at it. I'm happy to talk anytime. Survivor and what my future and Survivor might look like. So yeah, shout out production. I think that this was a well done twist. Like I said, on paper was a little bit scary, but sometimes the biggest risks often pay off in the biggest rewards. And we ended up getting rewarded quite heavily. So thank you to production and Jeff. Back on to Emily though. I've been very hard on Emily, and I think rightfully so all season. Emily did not play a good game at all. And we all came in very, very high on Emily coming into this season. I was very, very sad to hear her exit press of really, she's very self-aware of how bad of a game she played. But I do think she's being overly hard on herself. She pretty much whether it was jokingly or more serious, kind of said along the lines like, she's never going to play Survivor again because who would want to work with her? She's she can't keep her mouth shut and all that. We talk about like story arcs and changing the way you play. And I think if you're open enough and understand you're not going to change, I still want to see Emily play again. I still think that Emily is capable of playing her game and being able to use that to her advantage and win. She did not play well in this season. I know, Ben, you're a little bit higher on her than I was. I was very, very hard on her, even though she was on my team. I think she stunk gameplay wise for the most part, but I was sad to hear her be that hard on herself because she's still somebody I would love to see play again. Because I think that she has more to be able to give. And even maybe she's more on like a fans versus favorites type season where she can maybe roam a little bit more, because overall this is a very overwhelming season to be on, because I even said it early on, I felt like that she was almost kind of starstruck in a way, and I don't mean that in a way to insult her, because obviously like I would be incredibly starstruck, but it's just like I didn't understand what she was going for early on, and like I think that she just did not play well. But I don't want her to be too hard on herself. I want to see Emily play again, and I like Emily, and I think she's entertaining, and I hope that we see her play again.
I will say I think that the reason I may be perceived to have been less hard on Emily is because like I agree that she's played badly. I just think that the reasons that people have said that she's played badly are not the right reasons. I don't think that her spilling secrets to everyone is even like the top 5 to 10 reasons why she's played badly. And that seems to be like what everyone's hyper focused on, because I think that's what the storytelling has hyper focused on. But the reason that she played badly is because she put herself into a position where all of her allies beat her in a final tribal council, and then she tried to make a move in a situation where it wasn't necessary to keep her in a maintained position with people that she couldn't beat at the end, and none of that would have been she wouldn't have gotten any of that credit, even if the move got paid off. Christian would have been the one to have gotten the bulk of the credit if their alliance had succeeded in the plans that they were putting together. And there was not really like a path for her to get to a final three. Like who is she taking to the final three? It's like her, like Aubrey, and like who's the third, right? Like she loses to both Devins and Christian, I would imagine. So I didn't really see what the vision was for her game, and like how she kind of thought that she was going to win. That to me is like the big reason that I think that she misplayed the season. Because even like the things that she was planning on doing that she failed at, like they weren't good ideas to begin with. I think that my mentality when it comes to being in an alliance in these games is you're most successful when you're basically acting like a parasite. You should like treat your allies like you're a parasite and they're the host, and suck as much from them as you possibly can while getting away with it, while giving as little value back to them as possible without them like realizing that you provide no value to them. And that's kind of what Emily does, and I respect her for that, right? Like she doesn't treat her allies as people that she should have deference to in terms of putting their game above hers. She always is going to make whatever decision she thinks puts her game above theirs. It's just that she didn't really have a path to do that with the people she was working with. So
do you just think that gameplay style maybe just doesn't translate to the new era style of play? Because like it feels like it's almost a more of like a new school, old school kind of way to play, whereas new era is just I just don't think that there's the runway there to be able to land that at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think on a different season it could work. I think on a season with more goats that like Emily would be willing to work with, it could work. But like all of the potential goats, like she just wasn't working with. Like, you know,
I think she'd be perfect for a fans versus favorite style season. I think that would be like perfect for her.
Yeah,
I'd love them to run it back again for another fans versus favorites, but it's been so long now. I thought, just every, 36, 46, just keep doing it. But no.
I mean, I would prefer a Blood Rose Water 3. I think Blood Rose Water is a really compelling format, and it's insane to me. They only did it twice, and they did it in such like quick succession, and they never did it again with returning players.
No, I agree.
I think we can get both. I think we can have a world where we have both one year, one the next. I think that why not? They should be clamoring and like and going to every corner of the Survivor previous players for the next 4 seasons to get returning players back, because I think you see very clearly the success that will bring the show and how stale the new era format became. And I feel like that they probably are really. I think we're going to see a lot more returning player seasons. Luckily, hopefully, because I think that this show needs it. I think the community needs it. I think the viewership will need it. I assume they're probably going to take a pretty massive hit with 51 in terms of viewership. I think it's probably going to be pretty substantial. Maybe not substantial enough that it like raises a bunch of red flags, but I think that the 51 is probably going to be, even though it's necessary to have it be an all new player season, I think it's going to be quite a shock for us in the fall, like kind of like what the game looks like compared to how much fun we're having now. And I think viewership will probably reflect that. So hopefully that will send a message to them that we can't have another 10 seasons of having no returning players, because I think the show needs it.
Yeah, it happens every time they do a big returning player season, with both the season before and the season after, pretty regularly. Like even like Pearl Islands, which is like highly considered one of the best, if not the best, season of Survivor at this point, right? Like at the time, it was just like the speed bump on the road to All Stars, because everyone knew All Stars was coming at season 8. So. It's inevitable that the seasons, like the seasons that sandwich the big all-star seasons, kind of end up not getting the shine they should get. And I also do worry that they'll kind of go in the wrong like complete opposite direction, where I think like the Goldilocks zone for returning player seasons is like somewhere in the like every 5 or 6 season range. And looking at the 20s and early 30s, they were doing returning player seasons like fucking 50% of the seasons were returning player seasons. To me, that was too much. 10 seasons without a returning season was too little. There's definitely a Goldilocks zone in the middle where we're not doing it every other season. We're not doing it every 10 seasons. Let's cut it right in the middle. Every 5 seasons, returning player season, I think everyone would be pretty happy with that.
Every 3 seasons, so like every other year, I feel like there should be a returning player season. I think that's like very reasonable, right? You get 3 seasons, we have a returning player season, whether it's people from that previous season or whatever. I think that is like, so I'd be fine to go 51, 52, all new, and then either have 53 or 54 be a returning player season. Maybe it's a blood versus water on 54. Maybe it's a fan versus favorites and they cast me on 54 or 53. Like, I think let's talk production. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I can't go 10 seasons. I also don't want to go 5. I think that we need to have a little bit more frequency, because will this show probably be around for 60? Yes. But like, I think that like I don't want to always grasp on to nostalgia, but I think that we need to keep having seasons like this. I think it's needed. I think the game, the way it's set up now, it needs to be there. It needs to happen.
Yeah. And, I don't hate like the captain style seasons where you bring a couple people back. That's, I think produced pretty okay seasons, at least like, good South Pacific, Philippines, not as good, maybe Redemption Island, Edge of Extinction, but it's a 50% hit rate isn't too bad.
You've got Guatemala too.
Guatemala, yeah, and I really like Guatemala, so I guess that 3-2, not bad in playoff contention, keeping your hopes alive.
Yeah, it's above 50%,
Yeah, and so like I do think there's more. I don't know if we'll get like a game changers here where it was like 31 and then 34, that was pretty quick. But I also, like Dylan said, if the ratings are down on 51, I do see CBS potentially hitting that red button and being like, who are the people we left off? Bring them in. We need the Brad Culpepper style player, someone who almost got there,
One thing I wanted to touch on super quick before we close things out is who will end up and who deserves credit for the Aussie blindside, because it was something we talked about in our group chat. For me,
I think Jonathan will get the credit.
Yeah.
So I think there are because we talked about how many pieces were needed to get this done, and like how it needed to perfectly fall for this to happen to Aussie. I feel like that this move is going to be the huge clusterfuck that is going to occur in, which, by the way, big F-bomb episode. So sorry to the YouTubes if this gets flagged as adult content. I think that it's going to be a big clusterfuck when we get into Final Tribal of people arguing to take claim of who did this, because I think you'll have Aubrey think that she was the catalyst behind it, because obviously she had Aussie confess to her and she ran and told everybody, not maybe realizing that this was already fully in motion. Obviously Jonathan is the main one. I think you have Tiffany involved here too, because Tiffany was very vocal about wanting to get Aussie out before that. I think you have an argument to be made for Sari, who said like she did her best, but like she knew she needed to let Aussie go without ruining her own game. I think like obviously you're going to have Rizzo, who's going to kind of be mocked at and laughed at for saying, this was a big move for him because he could have warned Aussie and blew the whole thing up, but he didn't. So he deserves credit too. I think that this is going to be like a very, very messy part. And maybe depending on who's there at the end, maybe the argument that is going to determine who like actually wins the game or doesn't. And so I that's why I also think that this was such an important episode, because it feels like it's setting up the final building blocks to get us into the end. Because I think Daryl says Aubrey deserves credit. I feel like I lean more towards Aubrey, but I want to give Jonathan the credit. But like all those other pieces, none of this could have happened. Like, would this have happened if Ozzy didn't tell? And Ozzy is maybe the worst of this entire thing. Maybe Ozzy is the one who deserves the most credit for this, probably, for having this unfold. Because does this actually happen if Ozzy does not spill the beans to Aubrey and cause this huge red flag to Rizzo? And like I don't know who at that point deserves the most. It feels like maybe Ozzy should just take credit for it and kind of tank whoever's there at the end. That's why I feel like it feels like it is a much more important factor to the end of the season than maybe it might seem right now.
Yeah, so I think the show was trying to give Jonathan the most credit, and I think that like part of that is just the structure of the twist, right? He's the one who had the most power this episode, just based off of the way the twist was structured. But I would also lean towards giving him the most credit. I think with Rizzo, it's hard to like argue, like especially in a final tribal council format, it's going to be hard to argue not doing something as a move, because ultimately that's what it was. Like he proactively chose to not do a thing, which is to not tell Ozzy that he was getting blindsided. And like, that's really like not an easy sell as like a play, even if it is technically a play, because you're not doing something. Or I think this was also a criticism of Rizzo in 49, is like a lot of his gameplay was very kind of like subtle social maneuvering and a lot of posturing with his idol where he didn't do anything with the idol, but him not doing something with the idol was kind of part of the play. Like, I would say that like the way that this was kind of laid out to us was Jonathan and Tiffany had a conversation. They both had previously talked about independently and now together the idea of going after Ozzy. And then Jonathan is the one who executes it. And we see most of the story of Blindside through Jonathan's perspective. Even when the conversation with Aubrey happens, it's not like, oh, Aubrey gave me this information and I can use this and this is part of my plan now. It was, oh, okay, cool. Like Aubrey needs me to pull this plan off, so she's going to vote with me against Ozzy. And I don't really fully trust Aubrey or care to work with her, but like, this is a piece that I need to pull off my plan. Like that's the story that we were told. It was Aubrey's machinations ended up feeling like a piece in Jonathan's eventual plan, as opposed to like their own plan of their own. That, at least to me, obviously, like that's my biased reading, I guess. You know, I don't know if you guys have a similar or different reading of that, but that's like how it came off as the show was trying to make it seem like Jonathan's plan. Now, is that going to be how the jury perceives it? I don't know. Is it even going to matter? Because do juries actually ever care about who gets credit for this move or the next move? Unless you're like a total mastermind, like if Sari gets there, she's going to take credit for like 14 different things, and like everyone's going to be like, yes, Sari, you're the greatest of all time. But like if anybody else gets there and they try to like claim one move or the other, a lot of it's just going to come down to vibes, and like people are going to have their own biases based off of whether they perceive a person as being strategic, whether they perceive the certain situation one way or the other. And so like I think a lot of it is just like perception versus reality, and people don't actually care.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think, Brian. Spit it out.
I agree with Ben. I mean, Ben said it quite well. I think that it's going to be given to Jonathan, and the way, and I think, Ben, you put words to what I've been trying to articulate but was unable to. The move from Rizzo is a non-move. That's a great way to put it. He didn't do anything. So how can you claim it as a move? It's going to be tough. So really great point, Ben. This is why you're the host. The main host.
No, I think we all have, you know, we all have a lot of insight on the show, right? We've you know, we all watched too much Survivor, and
that's true. That is true.
You've chosen your sides, Brian. You've clearly made it obvious who your favorite co-host is. That's fine. We'll discuss it.
No, we have a whole other show that we'll
discuss it on next week's episode of Wicked Good Show, which just premiered this week. Where
Well,
Brian
Dylan,
and I
if you started watching Big Brother, then you could get on the Have Not Room, and then you could.
Oh, dude, you should. You
I
get
got-
to meet
or-
Chad. Chad's great. He's our other co-host.
I could do I do a blind watch of an episode of Big Brother, and I weigh in from there of
You should watch the first episode and then decide if you want to commit.
Well, to be fair, the first episode of most Big Brother seasons are really bad. Like usually,
Yeah, so maybe the
usually
first
it starts getting good around episode 3 or 4. So
Yeah.
I have a big backlog of shows. It's tough for me to get ready to commit to another reality TV show that involves even more time commitment than what we
times
already
as
have
much.
with Survivor. So I'm gonna timidly say maybe where I in another life we are doing Have Not Room together rather than the Blindsiders. But I guess I am
Not
happy
rather, in conjunction.
No, there was no point that I was gonna be able to commit to both. My brain could
Oh, I
not.
see.
I would dive too far into Big Brother. It's not an option for me. I'm trying to work through some of the backlog of Survivor seasons I have not seen. So, in another life, we're all very happy together with Big Brother and skipping around and having a great time. But in this life, we are in the trenches of Survivor and discussing whether or not Rizzo, the RIZGOD, deserves credit for not doing anything in a play. So maybe one day, though. Maybe if Survivor packs it up and we still have Big Brother around, maybe that's my chance. It's so daunting.
I mean, I think if I had to guess, Big Brother would be the less likely of the two to stick around, but then again, it's a summer show and nothing is on during the summer. So it's kind of a nice schedule packer for CBS to have 3, sometimes 4 episodes a week of Big Brother. And the fan base online is rabid.
I'm not ruling out, though, maybe giving this new season a chance, though, in terms of actually watching it. I will not rule that out. Going through the entire history of Big Brother and trying to learn that. When I feel like I'm only just now getting caught up with Survivor, that's a tough ass. But
no, and I started watching live with BB14, and I haven't even watched every episode of Big Brother of all the seasons. I've watched the seasons Ben said to watch, basically from before BB14. But yeah, and I don't think Chad either has watched every episode. I think I
have not seen Big Brother 1, so
yeah. Well, that is 50 episodes. So.
Yeah, and it's not Big Brother, and it's from everything I've heard about it, it's not particularly fun. So.
Yeah.
I want to quickly, Daryl, talking about what we thought of Devin's dancing, and it actually brings up another quick thing I wanted to highlight. We've talked about people who I think could replace Jeff in hosting. I feel like Devins in this season has pushed himself up. Obviously, having the history with the news, working with the news station, I think Devins would be somebody who I now be pretty high on wanting to replace Jeff as host. Boston Rob, obviously the one that gets brought up the most with a lot of people. I don't know how realistic that is anymore. But Tyson's another one I would love. But Devins, I think would be a fantastic host, and he just has fun. He plays things up for the camera because he has to do that a lot for his job in real life. And I think that dancing thing, as ridiculous as it was, it kind of gave me that thought of, I think Devins loves this game enough and loves making good TV that he would be a pretty good host.
I think Tyson could be a good host for a show where he's similarly to how Joe McHale shits on all the contestants on House of Villains, or Tyson can just make fun of everybody. I think he would be really good on a show like that. I don't know about Survivor, but yeah, I think Devin would be great.
They were going for something a little bit different, a little more edgy.
That's so different.
Yeah. Tyson has a very specific kind of way about him that I don't know, super fits the mold for Survivor. I love Tyson too, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it fits. I mean, par for me is my number one pick if I had to pick a player.
Yep.
I think I've said that before in the podcast. But yeah. I think Devins will be good. I came into the season not being a Rick Devins fan, and I think I'm leaving the season like being a Rick Devins fan. So he did his job.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'm leaving this. Devins, I think, has gained the most ground for me out of anybody.
Probably I think that like for me, I was like Rick was someone who I would have preferred to win Edge of Extinction over Chris, but I wasn't like I need Rick Devins back. It was more like he's gonna get invited back because they love him so much. And then he came out and he's been so fun this season. And yeah, a big Rick Devins guy as well. Okay. So he might not win Survivor, but he's won our hearts, which he's
won 1 million hearts.
More important, 1 million hearts. Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, anything else before we get on out of here?
No, great episode. Like I said, shitty twist on paper. I would like to see the power broker advantage again, though, in a different season. I think in theory it works really well. Like that scramble and everything with the split beach, I think is really, really interesting. And I think it's a twist that you can critique a little bit more to maybe put a little bit more pressure onto the power broker because maybe it seems a little bit too broken. But I was a big fan of this episode. I think it was one of the better episodes of the season, which is saying a lot because I think this has been a very, very strong season. So no, two thumbs up for me. Obviously, once again, we have 2 episodes left. We are full steam ahead, right? 2 episodes. I think, we're May 8th. So we're getting into the end game. Next, it's going to be very sad to close out this season, but we still have so much that has to happen to get us to that point. So very excited for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You muted.
My bad. Ben, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely like a twist, like again, another twist that there were many ways for it to go badly, but it ended up going pretty well. Made a really compelling episode. I thought that Ozzy's arc both on this episode and on the season was really good. The stuff with his dad as he talked about that. To me, I was like, oh, well, this is to me confirming he's either going out tonight or he's winning. So but really, just like, I teared up a little bit in terms of the conversation he had with Devins in the hammock. Like, there's like, I came in the season talking about Rick Devins not being Rick Devins fan. I came in the season not expecting a lot from Ozzy. We drafted him at the very last possible second in our draft. I think all 3 of us expected him to kind of like cap out at his like game changers position as like a best case scenario, and he exceeded that. So yeah, I think like didn't really expect much from him. Wasn't like super thrilled that he was on the season coming in, but yeah, he exceeded my expectations and really great character, really fun. Really happy he was on the season after it's all said and done.
Are we giving casting their flowers like officially? Like I think that this was a very well casted season. I think even when you get down to Savannah, like I said, I think Savannah is really kind of maybe the one where it feels incredibly unfair to her to be able to have to play this immediately again after. I would probably swap Savannah out to give her more time to kind of celebrate her win. Yeah, I'd probably pull in a Erica to kind of show herself again if you're needing to pick.
Marianne was who she replaced to the general knowledge of this.
Okay, so Marianne would be the one, but I think casting hit the nail on the head. Would I have loved to see other players that made it to the end? 100%. But I think that the chemistry that has mixed together with this, I think has ended up working out really well. So, and I know casting was a huge point of contention going into the season. It was like very, very vocal. A lot of people were pissed off. A lot of people were upset. A lot of the players that were rejected were upset. I think that I think what we got was a very satisfying product. And it feels like this season, unless we kind of really flop at the end here, even with all the twists, has paid off. So now I'm not gonna say the season is one of the GOATs, but I think that, you talk about tiers, this is like a high B, low A tier type season for me, which is, I think, an overall win for a returnee player season. So casting did their job, I think, and I think casting has been praised by us a lot with recent seasons too, and so that they got some good stuff going there. So I am happy about that.
Yep, agreed across the board there.
Yep. Well, as for me, please subscribe to Better Radio or the Blindsiders, wherever you're watching this. Check out the main channel, Wicked Everything, Those Fake Nerds, Wicked Sports. And Dylan and I have our old new show coming back called Wicked Good Show. We did an episode this week. We're going to try for like every other week. We're not going to, kill ourselves doing it. But I actually got a little confused earlier, Dylan. I was like, oh, Ben will be back for this episode. He wasn't here last week. And I was like, no, that was this week. That was a different show. So I thought we had a great conversation talking about all the summer movies that we're looking forward to this year. So go check that out. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Daryl, so much for sticking with us. And
shout out Brian Wong. Shout out Boy Scout Scott.
God.
I didn't miss Brian Wong.
Oh,
I'm not forgetting my
see,
shout-out.
I feel like because you shouted them out earlier in the week, you didn't think about it,
Yes, yeah, no. I know very well they're listening. Shout out to the crew, our fans. We love you all.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.